evening. His name is James MacDonald, and he is here right now. James, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I don't know about headline guest. I'm now feel the need to live up to that.
So, James, you are here because you're a man of many talents. Throw at us some of your many different titles and occupations and things that you do.
My wife would definitely argue that last statement, but no, I've got a number of different sort of hats that I wear. I have a podcast called Dad Mind Matters. I also work for the NCT. I'm a team leader, and we organise activities for men with our parents in mind. We're always looking for volunteers, so that's something anyone wants to be, get in contact with, please do. I've just written a book called First Time Dad, which is a 42-week guide to pregnancy. I've struggled with my mental health on and off since my teens with sort of intrusive thoughts, and I think there's not enough support for men when they become dads, and also just the massive change that is pregnancy. And I think if you can't look after yourself, you've no chance of being able to support your partner. So
that's the thing, isn't it? And that's the point that you sort of make, is that it's a kind of dual thing. It's looking after your partner, being there to support them, but also making sure you're supporting yourself and your own mental health as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes difficult, I think, because obviously you go through pregnancy, then you're not the most important person in the situation, because fair enough, your partner is actually doing the lion's share of the work. She is growing your child, but that doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to be aware and think about some self-care. And it's actually, I think it's dangerous to not look after yourself, not get enough sleep, not just talk to your partner about your concerns and your worries. Is only going to strengthen your bond as a relationship. And I found certainly that by being honest with my wife about things that really worried me, just sort of gave her a license to do the same, and maybe share concerns and worries that she had about becoming a mum.
Because it is a really worrying time. And I mean, you think that the worry is going to end when the baby's born, but it continues. But sorry,
yeah.
Sorry if you've not had a kid yet.
Yeah.
but that worry lasts for a while.
Yeah.
But it is a worrying time, isn't it? Because you're concerned about the health of the baby, about the health of your other half, about your own health as well. You're worried about finances. You're worried about being prepared in time. You're worried about all of these sort of things.
Yeah.
Some serious, some seemingly small, but everything can build up. So that's like a long 9 months of just general concern, really.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you're doing enough. And I think that the problem is nothing can. The learning curve when you become a parent is insane. The minute your child is born, you are suddenly not the most important person in your own life, which is a very weird concept. From now on, you will have to make sure that someone else is clean, happy, fed before that is a priority for you, which takes some getting used to. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm blessed to have. I've got an amazing wife and 3 wonderful children. But it is the most challenging thing you will ever do, and it continues to challenge me in ways that you never really. There are days when you just think, I don't know how I got through that today. I find ridiculous parody songs and doing podcasting and writing and trying to help people kind of just say, look, I fell on an epic scale quite often. You're probably doing better than you think you are. Just be kind to yourself. And if you need some help, just ask, because the help is there, I think.
Yeah, I found out a friend of mine, where his other half was expecting, and I just sent him a message this week, just say, "Oh, congratulations, just heard about it." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got no idea what's going on. I've got no idea what I'm going to do." And it's just, all I could do is just say, no one does, really.
Yeah.
Like you'd struggle to find someone who thought, I've got this in check. It's going to be fine. This is going to be plain suits.
Well, I wouldn't believe them.
No.
And actually, that wouldn't help a new dad at all. I think you're much better off saying, look, I haven't got all the answers, and I didn't when I was a dad. But the one thing I found is that when I became a dad, I suddenly was so grateful of my friends who were dads, because they suddenly became the oracle, not just in how to be a dad, but how to navigate marriage or any sort of relationship, because it just everything changes, and there isn't, and that's kind of why I wanted to write this book, because there isn't this. There are books out there. I don't think there's enough support for men, and I wanted to write a really candid, honest description, sort of warts and all, of what it's like from week 1 to week 42, getting yourself, your house, ready to sort of have a little person living in it.
And that's really the kind of it's that balance, isn't it? It's like, it's not a book about just being a dad in a vacuum. And you get a lot of books, I think, that are about just being a new mum in a vacuum. But this is very much kind of looking at it from, you're a team and you have to work together.
That's the only way it works. I mean, I've written it sort of, week by week, so that, you have an account of what's actually happening, in the development of your child. But I've also tried to write it on what may be happening for your partner, not just physically, but mentally, and also what may be happening where you might be. And obviously sorry, I've just kicked the tripod, that's professional. What might be happening for you. And obviously everyone's, journey of becoming a parent is unique, but I think there are enough things that are just universal, and people go, oh wow, yeah, I remember that, like, the 12 and 20 week scans, and just just the changes in your life and the changes you make to your house. And I've tried to be really honest about it, and really sort of, and what I've been really lucky, I've had some lovely reviews, and people said there were times it made me laugh out loud. There were times when there was a lot of pathos in there, because I talk about how my mental health spiked at times when I just thought, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough to do this. I don't know if I'm actually just, am I going to be all, and then you feel really guilty for thinking, how can I be thinking about myself at the moment, where really it should all be about my partner? And I think it's important to give your partner as much support as you can, but you need to look after yourself. That's paramount, I think.
Mm-hmm. So your mental health, had it been an issue sort of way before you were a dad?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had. I did a CBT course. I was referred to a CBT course by my GP. I've always had I've always remember being a very anxious child and teenager, and I've always been a bit of a checker. Like, I worry about checking the doors and leaving the house, and what I didn't realize was intrusive thoughts. I get I got diagnosed following that CBT course, of having what's called pure O, which is a form of OCD, and how it manifests itself is through intrusive thoughts. So most people may have a thought in their mind about, cool, that was close, that car came close to me, and then it passes. For me, that will linger in my mind, and I will catastrophize about what could have happened if X, Y, and Z. And at its best, it can be mildly annoying. At its worst, it can be utterly debilitating, to the point where you're so consumed with anxiety that it's very difficult to know what to do. And I've found that, and it takes time. You have to learn what works for you. And I've been on medication, and I'm all right sharing that. I think it's important. I do a lot of open water swimming. I have a cold shower every day. I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I find anything creative really helps. So playing terrible songs on the ukulele, having a podcast, really just being present, and doing something that stops me worrying about fictitious road traffic accidents. I've kind of accepted. I mean, not to say that I've stopped trying to sort of overcome it, but I think you get to a point where you just think, just got to accept that it's here. It's not who I am. I'm not my intrusive thoughts. It's a part of me. And instead of the amount of energy of trying to fight this, just accept that it is what it is. And actually, in some ways, it gives me a compassion for other people who are struggling, maybe beyond the norm. I don't know what someone else's mental health battle is, but I know how difficult it can be. And that makes me really passionate about wanting to help other people who are struggling.
So that's like, it's that extra level of empathy, I guess, isn't it? Because you kind of know, even though you don't know exactly what's happening, you know what it's like to
absolutely
have that. How did becoming a dad, or finding out you were going to be a dad, how did that affect your mental health?
In some ways, it improved it, because I became very focused. I found that when I became a dad, it gave me an extra gear. Certainly, when our daughter was born, I suddenly thought, actually, this isn't enough. I need to really work on myself and get a better job and just do some work. I think, the love you have for your child is so overwhelming. Um, it's kind of when becoming a dad is when I actually suddenly kind of really understood the concept of unconditional love. I mean, you would literally do anything for your children. And I'm not being overly dramatic. I think most parents would go, "Yeah, I would do whatever I have to do." Um, where I found it challenged my mental health was just the fatigue. I'm always more anxious, and my intrusive thoughts are are more evident when I'm tired. Which and the problem is that you're, as a parent, you're going to be tired in ways that you don't realize. I remember the first week I remember feeling so tired. I thought, am I okay to drive? I feel like I shouldn't be driving. Or luckily, my job, I don't operate heavy machinery, but I just thought, I'm so tired that I actually feel quite delirious. And I think that's just, parents feel that. But the problem with that is that when you're tired, you, it's like, that I'm more anxious. I'm checking stuff more, and so. But I think, like everything you get as a parent, you learn to kind of just you learn to do the 30% more work on 30% less energy. I think you just evolve over time, because you haven't got a choice.
Yeah, and you buy more tea and coffee. That's
Yes, I am. My bloodstream is definitely 50% latte, I think, at least.
now you have mentioned that one of your coping mechanisms is creating terrible ukulele songs. Now,
Yes.
I did catch some of this on your live stream that you did this morning.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've not. I have mentioned it shamelessly about 2 or 3 times. You're like, "Ugh, I'm just not going to get away with him not playing a terrible song." In fairness, it's about 30 seconds long.
I'm really excited about it. I'm genuinely
Please don't
excited
be.
about it. No, this is the big moment.
This is the big moment. Yeah, don't build it up. That's the key to a happy life, is lowering your expectations. So if you kind of think of sort of I don't know, a Tuesday, a rainy Tuesday afternoon in January, yeah, with your feet maybe in a bowl of mushy peas, that's a good starting point. Maybe this is a parody song, and I promise it is. There's no second or third verse. So if you're starting to think this is going on a bit, of the Proclaimers' 500 Miles, it's basically a bit of a take on how I think it is being a parent. When you're a parent, well, you know there's going to be an endless list of jobs to do. You'll try washing with soap or bleach or lava, but your hands will always smell of someone's poo. And when I've done 500 jobs, it just gets replaced with 500 more. I want to be a man who gets to sleep in his own bed, not someone else's floor. I'm exhausted, but apparently not as tired as my wife. I'm exhausted, but I wouldn't change a thing about my life.
That is magnificent.
I think magnificent is generous. I will take that.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say now, any other guest that comes on here, no matter how serious the topic, no matter how serious the subject that we're talking about, halfway through, they're gonna have to stop and do a parody song on the ukulele.
I think, yeah, anyone who's following me is thinking, yeah, thanks for that. That's great. I think you have to do. Do you know what I do? I do a dad's, what I call a dad's daily live stream on my Facebook page every day, and every day, like I did just then, I stumble through a song badly, but I think that's a really good thing to do, because you realize that A, no one really cares, and realize it doesn't do you any harm. If anything, and I think that's half the reason I'm slightly segueing, and but I think sometimes you've just got to be prepared to be not very good at something you've got to go, it's like everyone wants to write the perfect book or the perfect song. They just don't want to write 100 crap ones first. And I think if you can have the courage, and I sometimes are awful. Sometimes it's just bad and I make a mistake, but you can start again and no one cares. And if anything, it just makes your story much more interesting. Because if you literally tried something and were awesome, where's the, the Rocky films would never have been as good as if he just won every fight in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want my money back.
Yeah, it's just really good. Like, yeah, I mean, it's not like the Beatles just went straight into
No,
Strawberry Fields Forever, is it? They had a run up to it, and there were years, those Hamburg years, they wouldn't have been the big band that they were now, but
no.
you know, that's the thing. You have to try these things, and I get that as well. Part of a morning routine as well, to kind of get up, do something creative. That's a great way of just in like inspiring yourself to just get ready for the day, setting you up for the day, because it can be, as you say, with that abject tiredness of parenthood, it can be a very slow start to the day otherwise, can't it?
Yeah, and I think also you always get more out of it. I think, and actually, because a lot of people go, I don't want to do things because I'll get trolled or I'll get. Do you know what? I think out of probably it literally is 1 in 100. And what I've often found is if I do get the odd mean comment, it inspires other people to go, come on, mate. He's not doing anything of any harm. You don't actually have to defend yourself, because you'll find that other people go, he's just trying to do something nice for other people. What's your problem? But even you just realize actually it doesn't affect me. And you also, I think, don't underestimate how you liking someone's page, or you saying, mate, I watched that and it made me laugh, or I appreciate you doing it. I sing happy birthday every day. You don't know who's watching, and you also don't know who needs to hear that. You don't know how dark someone might be in a place thinking, I'm in a really dark place. That I'm scared, and you need something silly, or just someone else reaches out. I think that's the thing. People go, well, the problem's so enormous. Where do I even start? Just start. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, take that first step, because otherwise you won't get closer to it. But the first step
Absolutely.
is the most difficult thing to do, is to take that first step. And kind of talking about that with Glenn earlier about fitness and well-being, and taking the first step to doing some exercise. And the first bit is tough, but you're on the road. Then you're going. You've started off. You've started your journey.
Yeah, and you'll also meet other people. I mean, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I've been doing it for 8 years, and I've got quite used to getting beaten up by 12-year-olds. Which, as a 46-year-old man, you have to leave your ego at the door. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I'm probably pretty average. I also teach the kids classes, but you're just competing against you. And actually, there's something so good for doing something, and I think any sport or fitness that's humbling is very good, because it just puts your ego in a box, but actually it humbles you, and that's a good thing. And you don't know who you might be inspiring by trying to do something. Then it's someone who wants to also get fit, or someone else who also wants to do something creative, or write a book, or I don't know, just work on themselves. They might think, do you know what, so and so's doing it, and he's got less time with me, less resources, less whatever. There's no reason. So you can make a difference. You generally can, much more than you realize, I think.
And there's all this sort of ties in the sort of stuff that you do, and the NCT thing, I guess, really ties into the book that you've written as well. What sort of things do you do? So you work with men, like soon to be dads, guess.
Yeah, I've just started working with the NCT. I started in December, and it's a new pilot scheme that I think they've actually, from a lot of the feedback, because obviously I remember going on an NCT course with our daughter, and it's most people's understanding of the NCT is it's prenatal classes you normally go to 10 weeks before your due date. But I think they highlighted that there isn't support for men. There isn't, and men need support. Okay, we're not actually giving birth, but a lot of men experience a lot of trauma watching your the whole concept of childbirth. I mean, I was very proud of myself. I only managed to faint nearly on 1 out of 3. My wife has never let me live it down, which is fair enough. But no, I work for, it's called Parents in Mind, and we look and support dads and birthing partners in East Sussex by doing offline and online activities. We're going to be doing sort of Tuesday night live streams, and we're going to be doing socials and walks, and just trying to show dads, very similar to what you're doing, very similar to the inspiring stuff you're doing, just going, there is help out there, because it's amazing how so many things that troubled me as a dad, where I just thought, I've just made a mess of that. Another dad having the kindness to go, do you know what, mate? It wasn't that bad. Actually, I think you've been really hard on yourself, but you need to kind of be in an environment, whether that's can be online or offline. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop that. You can, if people who volunteer for us, we're trying to get people to volunteer 2 hours a week. We offer them a free accredited perinatal mental health course, which I've finished. It's brilliant. And do you know what? I mean, you get a qualification, which is a useful thing for your CV. But I actually just enjoyed talking to. It was 4 Tuesdays of 3 hours on 4 different Tuesday evenings. Just nice to talk to other dads from all over the country about. It was a bit of a laugh, and you're just talking to other men, and I think there's never been a bigger need for that.
Yeah, that's why it's important. I think that there are books like yours, because it's easy to think that you're on your own and you become that little bubble, and it does happen. When you have kids, your social circle, which is what we've found, which is kind of one of the reasons why we do what we do, which is because your social circle contracts and contracts and contracts because you don't have the time, do you? You've not got those times to go daytime drinking or whatever it is that you enjoy doing. You can't maybe go to the football as often as you did, or you can't, go and just hang out with friends as much as maybe you did before. And so that gives you fewer frames of reference when something does go wrong. And things go wrong all the time, or things go wrong, you think they've gone wrong. Really, it's just an experience, isn't it? It's a learning experience rather than it being something disastrous 99% of the time. So I guess that's, it's about having those reference points. So if there are more books about it, if there are more groups like this, then it can only be helpful for people to go, oh no, this is rubbish. And then other people to go, well, when this happened to me, this happened and I did this and you could do that and whatever.
Yeah, and you don't know what and these conversations can be at the school gates. They can be, but men don't do that. Men don't. I mean, this is a big generalization, but I think traditionally men are less likely to open up and talk about concerns and worries and their feelings, which is why, sadly, it's the biggest killer. Suicide is the biggest killer of men in this country. That's terrible. That's just sad and unnecessary. And I think there's just, so anything I can do. I've got 2 boys. I want them to grow up in I don't want them to have to. I hope if they have similar stress to me, I hope it's more acceptable. And I think we're making progress. It's more acceptable now for, say, our generation than it was for my father's generation. You just suffered in silence. Whereas now I think actually there are people, I mean, like what you guys are doing. It's amazing. It's pioneering. And there are people who want to get involved in this stuff. They just don't know where to start. So with the sort of parents in mind, and also what you guys are doing, there are places that, and the most exciting thing is you get to collaborate. And this isn't work. This is fun. This is social. I'm really proud of it. I really, it gives me a genuine. I feel like it's good work. It's things it's worth doing.
When you wrote the book, was that after you'd had your 3rd child?
Yeah, I wrote the book actually. I mean, our youngest is turning 5 tomorrow, so I have to. After this, I've got an hour of assembling stuff, which is going to be terrifying. But yeah, so I think I wrote the book. I started writing the book, I think September last year. And the NHS website was a very helpful reference point, because there were sort of week 1 to 42. And I read a lot of that stuff and then put my own take on it. But yeah, I mean, I was recalling information from 10 years ago. It's all still in there, I think. And I think people go, oh, I'd never remember. I bet you would. I bet if you started writing, it's all in there. It's core memories. It transcends everything else. You're not going to remember your paycheck or what you're not going to care on. We can't take it with us. You're going to remember how you felt when your wife went into labor. You're going to remember how you felt when you had to drop your child off at nursery for the first time. You're going to remember that stuff. It might not, you might have to do a bit of digging, but you might, the thing I love about writing is that once you start, you're like, where did that come from? It's all in there. It's like like your guest previously, you get into creative flow. You get into that flow when actually and that's when people describe flow, it's your presence. That's why people go, oh, so happy. I was, and it could be something like washing the car or, hoovering. It doesn't matter what it is. You're like, I was so engaged in that activity that I wasn't worrying about the far past or the future. I was just present. So yeah, it was easy. I'm now writing the 4th trimester because I think actually it only gets more interesting. I think it actually gets harder. I think to an extent, once the baby is in, so it is kind of in your partner. The problems happen when it comes out. It's like, oh my God. But it's helped me hugely. It really has.
I bet. And what was the one thing when you started writing, the one thing you were like, this has to go in? So this is something that I remember from one of the pregnancies. This has to go in the book. What was there anything that really stood out?
There was a really, really inappropriate joke. I'm just trying to think if I can get away with saying it. There's no swearing in it. It's just there was a guy in. We went to, in our set. Actually, my wife. Do you know what? My wife thought it was funny. My wife's a primary school teacher, so it can't be that bad.
There you go.
I think it was our second week of our NCT antenatal classes. So literally, imagine a room of tired-looking dads who may have been dragged there, and a sort of 8 heavily pregnant women. And one guy sort of said, "I've got a joke," and his partner's like, "Don't do that joke." And she's like, "No, it's really funny." I think he was like, "I'm going to break the ice," and all the dads are like, "Please tell the joke. Please tell the joke." And can I tell the joke? Is it?
Yeah, go for it. It's fine. It's live on the internet.
He said, well, yeah, exactly. How do you make a hormone? Don't pay her. Oh. And it's awful. Yeah, I hope I haven't completely lost your...
That is, I can imagine in an NCT antenatal class situation.
It was probably the least appropriate thing you could ever say in that. I mean, it was so bad. It was brilliant. And I thought, and when I was writing that, and I said to my wife, do you think? She said, yeah, it was really funny. It was really honest. And it was funny because we all knew he was going to be in so much trouble.
Well, James, thank you so much. It's been fascinating. It's been really good. Tell us about where we can get the book.
Yeah, you can get the book's on Amazon. If you put First Time Dad, James MacDonald into Amazon, it will pop up. And yeah, and do you know what? If you want me to sing you happy birthday, come and find me on Facebook. I'd love to do that. I generally want to interact with people, and especially if people are having a crap time. And that doesn't have to be, it can't just be that you're feeling down, or it can just be that you're like, I just need to, I've got to tackle taking the kids to school. I just need to pick me up. And something as basic as me saying, hello, so and so, can just be, I'm seen. I'm seen. Please do that because it's more fun for me. I quite often I'm just talking to myself in the kitchen. So
yeah, well, that's there's a lot to be said for that. At least you're directing that conversation, even if it is just you.
Yeah.
But let's get other people involved as well. We will send out some social posts with links to the book as well. So Dad Mind Matters as well. That's the podcast. Can you get that everywhere you get your podcasts?
You can pretty much. I think Apple Podcasts, Spotify are the main ones. I think 80% of the people who watch it on Apple Podcasts. But yeah, if you ever find me on Facebook, or I've got a YouTube channel as well, which is also Dad Mind Matters. I'm generally trying to build a community that helps dads, specifically dads like me who struggle with mental health. And this is a really easy, fun way to do it.
Brilliant. Well, that's a noble aim. And thank you very much, James MacDonald. It's been absolutely...
Thanks, Jim. It's been a pleasure.